not. I was wrong, yes, you could say I was wrong. I'm their way, and I would rather be anywhere else.
On the Get Happy album, he reworked Stax and Motown.
Some things you never get used to, even though you're feeling like another man. There's nothing that he can do for you to shut the away as you are through. What was happening in an amateur hour, holding hands in the corridors of power.
And more recently, on King of America, he produced an economical, stripped-down sound.
Standing now, sometimes I feel a little mad. Don't you know that no one alive can always be an angel? When things go wrong, I seem to be mad. I just so whose intentions are good. Oh Lord, please don't let me be misunderstood.
Now with the new album, Spike the Beloved Entertainer, Costello has moved away from intensely personal songs to a broader examination of the world around him. For the recordings, Costello hand-picked a diverse range of musicians to provide precise musical settings for his most adventurous lyrics to date. In some quarters, Spike has been hailed as Costello's masterpiece. Behind the comic grease paint, the attitude is as pointed and as passionate as ever.
Well, The Beloved Entertainer was the original title for the record. I had this image of this beloved entertainer, which I don't know whether it was a picture of the beloved entertainer in captivity, as we see him now, hung up on the wall. That's kind of what the record companies do now. They go out and shoot their artists and hang them on like a trophy in the boardroom, you know, and Spike is portrayed as a trophy on the boardroom wall. It really doesn't have any other significance. The Beloved Entertainer, on the other hand, is a character I think we're all familiar with, and he makes various sort of appearances in a couple of the songs on the record. He's the kind of guy that comes out and you feel like you've known him 1,000 years when he's been on stage about 5 minutes, you know. And I think people will recognize him in some of the songs.
I wish you'd known me when I was alive. I was a funny fella. The crowd would hoot and holler for more. I wore a drunk's red nose for applause. Oh yes, I was a comical priest with a joke for the flock and a hand up your fleece. Drooling the drink and the lipstick and grease paint down the cardboard front of my dirty dog collar. Now I'm dead, now I'm dead, now I'm dead, now I'm dead, and I'm going on to meet my reward. I was scared, I was scared, I was scared, I was scared. He might have never heard God's coming. So there he was on a waterbed, drinking a cola of a mystery brand, reading an airport novelette, listening to Andrew Lloyd Webber's Requiem. He said before it had really begun, I prefer the one about my son. I've been wading through all of this unbelievable junk and wondering if I should have given the world to the monkeys. Now I'm dead, now I'm dead, now I'm dead, now I'm dead, and you're all going on to meet your reward. Now you're scared? Are you scared? Are you scared? Are you scared? You might have never heard that God's coming. I'm gonna take a little trip down paradise and endless shores. They say that travel broadens the mind till you can't get your head out the door. I'm sitting here on the top of the roof. I hang around in the darkest night until each beast has gone to bed. And then I say, God bless, and put out the light. While you lie in the dark, afraid to breathe, and you beg and you promise, and you bargain and you plead. Sometimes you confuse me with Santa Claus. It's the big white beard, I suppose. I'm going up to the pole where you folks got a cold. I might be gone for a while if you need me. Now I'm dead, now I'm dead, now I'm dead, now I'm dead. And you're all going on to meet your reward. Are you scared? Are you scared? Are you scared? Are you scared? You might have never heard that God's coming.
Listening to the new album, you appear to have changed your approach both lyrically and musically. The musical arrangements are often very intricate, and we'll come on to talk about them. But it seems to me that the lyrics are more direct and less equivocal than ever before. Would that be oversimplistic?
Possibly that's just the way it appears to yourself or to somebody else, but I think everything changes. You change as a person, you change in your approach, you listen to different music, it has an influence on you. You maybe can't hear that influence in the music, but your attitude to music changes. I think over the last 4 years or something, I've written much simpler songs, much easier to understand songs, and I've left behind some of the trickier use of words that didn't necessarily always say more. I'll defend some of the stuff that I got criticized for, where I thought a turn of phrase did do its job, but the words are supposed to carry a meaning, and if they just become party tricks, then they don't really serve that purpose. And I don't think there's anything that amazing about what I was doing with words. I think it's a race of pygmies really that lyric writers these days. So it isn't a tremendous amount to be better than. All of these things, the way in which we describe them, make them sound much more important, or as if they're like a bolt of lightning hitting you or something. And they're much more fun. There's a lot more fun to writing. Sometimes a song, you'll be working with the guitar and the song will appear and it'll be there before you realize you've been working at it. Sometimes I'll be listening to the radio and a quite mundane phrase will leap out as if it was beautiful poetry. And maybe that's, if it's a talent, it's more like a curse sometimes to just be able to hear something in a quite mundane phrase that'll spark your imagination, gets you thinking about something. Or other times it'll be the middle of the night and you'll wake up, or I'll be walking down the road and as far away from the guitar or tape recorder as possible, and suddenly I'll start getting ideas. It is a little bit like being possessed, but it's not unpleasant.
Is there anything that you could illustrate that with from the new album, for example? A mundane phrase, or...
A mundane phrase coming out. Well, it isn't a mundane phrase, it's a beautiful phrase, but I was watching a program about jungle or something, and you know, the way they talk in those things, and they have these beautiful pictures, and they're obliged to have somebody saying something. And this guy said, "And this butterfly feels to drink this turtle's tears." And I thought that was a lovely thing to say. It was a beautiful image. And the butterfly was hovering over this thing, and then it went down and got some bugs off a dead monkey that was lying in the floor of the jungle. And it said, and it feeds on the dead monkey's hand. Well, it doesn't actually eat the monkey's hand. Now, in the song Deep Dark Truth and Mirror, I have this catalogue of disaster. This person that won't go home, it doesn't know how to, is obsessed. And it's a very strange, mysterious song that I tried to portray, like a deranged person's mind, or the way your mind can get in yourself. And in the last verse of the song, I had a lot of different images unconnected, kind of like a series of delusions, and suddenly I found a place to these two things that I'd noted. Now, you know, the original scriptwriter might have thought of them as poetry. Well, here they found their way into my song, and now he can come and claim his royalties.
A stripping puppet on a liquid stick gets into it pretty thick. A butterfly drinks a turtle's tears, but how do you know he really needs it? 'Cause a butterfly feeds on a dead monkey's hand. Jesus wept, it felt abandoned. You're spellbound, baby, there's no doubt in that. Did you ever see a stare like a Persian cat? The same eyes, the same lips, the same life, and get on trips. Deep dark truth and mirror. Deep dark truth and mirror. Deep dark truth and mirror.
When it comes to songwriting, you've always acknowledged your debts, and there have been distinct borrowings. Where have you done that?
I would, you know, I had this thing for a while that I tried to get as many many references to the Supremes into my songs. There's, you know, it's only in passing. You would never know. The song "Accidents Will Happen," which was a, you know, reasonably well-known song, had that "You Keep Me Hanging On" in it, which came from that song. And then on the very next record, I started one of the other songs with "Some Things You Never Get Used to," which is actually the title of one of their songs. Things like that. But then that's only a starting point for your thought. You then have to develop it another way. You put them in like quotes. If it just becomes trickery, if it's just a clever thing, then again it doesn't. It's like wordplay. It just gets on people's nerves. But there are times when it can be quite fun to do, and sometimes I maybe indulge it when I'm not writing something from a very personal standpoint. If I'm asked to write a song for a reason, I was asked to write a song for a film once, and they wanted a very romantic song about a girl considering all her options in life. And I took two songs that I really liked and tried to basically rewrite them.
So how does it work?
I had to go to the piano. I can't play either of them, or any of them very well. So that song "True Love" by Cole Porter, I don't even know the real changes, but it's something. What a lovely sound. It's a special computer-driven piano. So there's that melody there, and then I love that song, Scarlet Ribbons. There goes that. As you can see, I don't know these songs very well, so I'm coming in stealing from them that well.
I'll put them all together.
And put them all together, and this is it. Looking down from all our books on everything I ever missed, everything I ever wanted is perfectly matched and beautifully appointed. But like the poor child at Christmas who's tricked and deceived, you can make any promise in the world, not one can be believed. Through the cellophane windows of a warm winter stove, I see the ice on my fingers and a look that I know. But there's one thing for certain, I'll never beg, borrow, or call. If you can't give me what I want, I'm having it all. If you can't give me what I want, I'm having it all.
And that song's for absolute beginners.
And they didn't use it.
They didn't use it. Who was going to be singing it?
Patsy Kensit, my old schoolmate.
The song Let Him Dangle, where did the inspiration for that come from?
Well, the story, because it happened before I was born. The case happened. The case of Benjamin Craig happened before I was born. So, but it was
What was
passed.
the case of Benjamin Craig?
Well, briefly, as I understand it, two young tearaways were cornered by the police during a robbery. One was under arrest. That was Bentley. And he shouted to his friend to let him have it now. The younger man had the gun. And the interpretation placed on it by the prosecution was that he intended to incite him to fire the gun, which is what he did, and shot the policeman dead. And when they came to trial, they were both found guilty, but because Craig was underage, he couldn't be hanged, and so they hanged Bentley, even though he had actually been in custody at the time of the murder, because they said he incited him and to do it through his words. And then on an occasion a few years ago, I read an interview with Derek Bentley's sister, and some of just the personal things she said about it were so heartbreaking in a real way, not in some sentimental way. They were so brutal, some of the things that she said, because she is still trying to get some kind of acknowledgement that maybe a mistake was made, or some kind of apology, or what's the word, a pardon of some kind. Or how can you retract somebody killing somebody? You can't take it back. That's the whole problem. It's an unembellished, unadorned song, apart from some comment that I make that I would say you have to have in those story songs. It comes from a sort of tradition of story songs where you tell the story and then you almost say, and the moral of the story is. And there's a lot of songs like that, and for a long time I resisted doing those, mainly because I figured they'd been done today. But this seemed the right form for this song, just to be technical, to get away from the actual subject for 1 second, to step back and how to say it. There's just there's one little comment in it, that at the middle and the end of the song, so that would be like your two little comments on the story to bring it up to date in one respect, that if killing anybody is a terrible crime, why does this bloodthirsty chorus come around from time to time? And then in the last verse, it just comments a little bit on the way in which this whole debate seems sometimes to be manipulated solely for its political merits. And that's probably not the right word. The merit or the power of distraction that it has.
Bentley said to Craig, let him have it, Chris. They still don't know today just what he meant by this. Craig fired the pistol but was too young to swing, so the police took Bentley, and the very next thing, let him dangle, let him dangle. Did it, did it, did it, let him dangle, let him dangle. Did it, did it, did it, did surrendered, he was under arrest. When he gave Chris Craig that fatal request, Craig shot 7 miles, he took Bentley's word. The prosecution claimed as they charged him with murder. Let him dangle, let him dangle. Did it, did it, did it, let him dangle, let him dangle. Did it, did it, did it, did it. They say Derek Bentley was easily led. Well, what's that to the woman that 70 miles wed? No, guilty was the verdict, and Craig had shot him dead. The gallows were for Bentley, and still she never said, let him dangle, let him dangle. Did it, did it, did it, did it, let him dangle, let him dangle. Did it, did it, did it, did it. Well, it's hard to imagine as the times have changed. When there's a murder in the kitchen that is brutal and strange. That killing anybody is a terrible crime. Why does this bloodthirsty chorus come round from time to time? Let him dangle. Not many people thought that Bentley would hang, but the word never came, the phone never rang. Outside Wandsworth prison, there was horror and hate, as the hangman shook Bentley's hand and calculated his weight. Let him dangle, let him dangle. Did it, did it, did it, did it, let him dangle, let him dangle. Did it, did it, did it, did it. Well, it's hard to imagine as the times that have changed. When there's a murder in the kitchen that is brutal and strange. That killing anybody is a terrible crime. Why does this bloodthirsty chorus come round from time to time? Let it dangle. From a welfare state to society murder, bring back the noose is always heard. Whenever those swine are under attack, but it won't make you even, it won't bring him back. Let him dangle, let him dangle. Did it, did it, did it, did it, let him dangle, let him dangle. Did it, did it, did it, did it, did it, let him dangle, let him dangle. Did it, did it, did it, did it, did it, let him dangle, let him dangle. Did it, did it, did it, did it, take it up.
What about someone like Paul McCartney, who you work with, you collaborate with on 2 tracks on this album? Obviously you were very familiar with his oeuvre when you came to work with him. How familiar was he with yours?
My oeuvre.
Your oeuvre.
My oeuvre. I really don't know. I didn't ask him that question. We were more concerned with the job in hand, which was to write some songs. I came along with a couple of songs which I had started work on.
You were primarily brought in to work on his album, and are these 2 songs that appear on your album a byproduct of that?
Not really a byproduct. I took them as insurance against us just being in the room and staring at each other and going, what do we do now? I had some songs I was underway with. For instance, I just happened to have this book, but I brought this along.
Pads, Paws
Can
and
you see that?
Claws.
Pads, Paws and Claws. It does sound like a good rock and roll kind of song title. Not like a big time, terribly profound thought. It's just, it sparks off your imagination some sort of thought. So I had a little, can I do this? Yeah. I had this very guitar. This one given to me by George Formby. And I had this riff, which is just kind of, it's just kind of, people know that riff, they've heard it forever. It's so simple, it's like, baby, please don't go, and John Lee Hooker and all this stuff. And I had this much of a song written. She's a feline tormentor, not any border to ride, with a drunk town of Maddie, leads her a miserable life. When it's full of that beer champagne, she pats, paws, and claws. And if you should wake up in some terrible dive, you don't know if it's so, if you're so surprised it's alive. Come on in, honey, let me under your hide. She pats, paws, and claws. So I had that much of it, which could have gone on and on and on like that and just been riffing on that thing, and would have been just fun. And so I got this song out while we were kind of feeling our way out, and Mr. McCartney said, well, that's all very well, this Pads, Paws, it's a catchy sort of little hook, but it doesn't really explain anywhere what it means by that. It's just cute sounding, and you sort of establish these two people, and they're sort of fighting back and forth. He goes out in the town, she's waiting for him with the rolling pin. It's kind of like an Andy Capp cartoon or something. He said, what you need to do is literally just go, she pads and explain, she pulls, he pulls, and really looked at it really like, it sounds kind of cold, but in the long run we wrote a bridge of the song which goes, she pads around the bedroom, practicing ways to flirt. He pours another drink and anything in a skirt, anything wearing a necklace. He thinks I'm claws, scratching his back, he's going out there, he's not coming back. Ow! He's got spider-like fingers, sharpen wherever he strays, and he carries a bird purse with all of a woman's ways. While he's drinking that spray, she knows that he never was there. She could be in pictures, but she wasn't all covered in fur. But he's coming home now, here's the surprise. You wouldn't believe the lies that he tried. She got him down to her favorite size. She pats, paws, and claws. She pats, paws, and claws. So we're back to the original thing, That's it, that's one song, quick.
Was it incredibly intimidating sitting down?
5 minutes and there you go,
Sitting down with him. You were in the Beatles fan club when you were 11, weren't you?
Yeah.
Who was your favourite Beatle?
Oh, I'm not saying.
think we understand what that means.
No. The one that used to play drums when Ringo was sick.
The other song that you worked on together, Veronica, was going to be the single. How did that come about?
Well, exactly the same way. I had got to about the same stage of writing it, and we just literally said, where does it need to go now? I wanted to write this song about an old person sitting there and appearing to be completely gone, as we say, but really coming and going, and sort of sometimes being completely lucid, but not making it a sentimental song. I wanted it to be sort of defiant and kind of happy, as if it was about a very young girl who was just starting out her life. Because sometimes when you talk to older people, they shoot back to something that happened that was very important to them 30 years ago, and then they shoot forward again, and there's something, sometimes it's quite magical, sometimes it's quite frightening. I really took a lot of it from when I was talking to my grandmother, and I went to visit her in the last few years of her life, and so it's like a love song in a way for her, but written like as if it was about a young girl, and therefore the pop music thing bears that up. Now people will hear the song and maybe just say, oh yeah, it's about this young girl Veronica, and then you listen a little bit more. I'm not making any big point, it's just a little bit of hope, and it's like I say, a love song from me, you know. And that's really all I can say about it.
sworn that her name was Veronica. Well, she used to have a carefree mind of her own and a delicate look in her eyes. These days I'm afraid she's not even sure if her name is Veronica. Do you suppose the waving hands behind Veronica come to hiding all the time she left alone to shout her name and feel the cold? Veronica, Veronica. Backbite is a famous wave. Did he roam down the town all the while? Will you wake from your dream with a wolf at the door, reaching out for Veronica? Well, it was all 65 years ago, when the world was the street where she lived, and the young man sailed on a ship in the sea with a picture of Veronica. I'm the Empress of India.
You've always underplayed or downplayed your abilities as an instrumentalist, and you billed yourself as a little hands of concrete on with reference to your guitar playing on one LP. Is it false modesty, or do you seriously feel
No,
that you have limitations?
I'm really
as
a clumsy guitar player, but I have a certain thing that is unique, because I'm so clumsy, really. And I hit the guitar very hard. When I play the guitar, it seems like it's attached to my jaw. So if I'm singing loud, I hit the guitar harder and break strings, but you know, all the stuff that a proper trained player would never ever do. But you know, it's a joke, obviously. But I don't think it's being falsely modest, because if you have very limited technique, you find exactly the notes that you want, and they're the ones that are important.
Is there one track on the album where you're particularly proud of your guitar playing? Baby Plays Around springs to mind.
I think that does the job. I mean, there's a song that could quite easily have been done with a sort of monochromic cocktail lounge sort of atmosphere. But unfortunately, the very clumsy hands of some of the fake jazz exponents of the day have destroyed that vocabulary for a lot of pop listeners. They hear a smoky sort of saxophone, a bit of string bass, and they think they're going to hear a Sade record, you know. Consequently, you have to look for a new way to present the song, so I just got an acoustic guitar and played the changes on that. It wasn't my song to begin with. It was one I was particularly interested in getting right, because it's my wife's song. I went out to buy a newspaper, and when I came back, she'd written this song, sung it into a tape recorder, and she doesn't play any chordal instruments, she plays bass, so I had to work out the changes. So then I was really conscious of the fact that we didn't want to make a cliche out of this song, because I thought it was a simple song that just wanted to be told in a very straightforward, honest way.
It's not open to discussion anymore. She's out again tonight, and I'm alone once more. She's all I have worth waiting for, but baby plays around, and so it seems I've always been the last to know, to hold on to that girl. I had to let her go. I wish to God I didn't love her so, 'cause baby plays around. I try to be strong, hold on to my pride. She doesn't even know it's wrong, how much I hurt inside, and heaven knows I've tried, but baby plays around. I'm just a plaything. It's hard to reconcile the facts and the faces. It's not open to discussion anymore. She walks those shiny streets, I walk the worn out floor. She's all I have worth living for. Baby, please. Baby, please.
On Spike, you've used musicians from all around the world, and one of the most distinctive sounds comes from the Irish musicians. How did you come to be working with them?
Well, as I explained before, I was living in Dublin for 3 months. My wife Scott was making this film to Korea, and I was working on the music and writing some songs. And I got a phone call one day from a man called Donald Lunny, who's a great musician and who's played in many different bands and traditional music and traditional combined with other things. And he's a brilliant musician and arranger. And he was doing a television program where he had assembled a lineup of players, some of whom had played together before, and some of whom were playing together for the first time. And he invited me to come and perform on the show. And they had a lineup of fiddle and pipes, flute, himself on bouzouki, myself on acoustic guitar, another acoustic guitar player, and some percussionists. And we very hurriedly arranged 3 songs, one of which I'd recorded before, and 2 new songs, which were Let 'Em Dangle and Any King Shilling. And we did them on the show, and it was, I'm very pleased with the results considering the amount of preparation we had. So it gave me almost a trial run at hearing those sounds.
Please don't put your cigarette that precious soul to time. But you're too bad to I don't know if what I'm doing is right. I don't know if you should be forgiven. But for me, it seems it means my life. While for you, it could just be living. Stay at home tonight, if you know what to keep doing. I can't say more, you would be telling. Far if you don't, what will become of you? Just as a word indication.
How literally do you mean the song Tramp the Dirt Down? Perhaps you'd better explain to whom it's directed and what the thought was behind the song.
Well, I'm not inclined to describe the song line by line. I think it diminishes it. I'd rather just sing it. But some of the things came from observations during the last election. And one particular line which I would recite is the bridge of the song, which says, "When England was the whore of the world, Margaret was her madam, and the fugitive was bright and as clear as the black tarmac Adam." And that's the way I think it is, and it contemplates her demise in a quite brutal way.
The setting of that song is probably the most beautiful on the album, the most melodious. and yet, as you say, the sentiment behind the song is intensely ugly. What was the thinking behind putting that sentiment to that setting?
Well, when I first wrote it, I wrote it straight out of my head, type of, very much just appeared in 10 minutes. And then later I added a little bit to the lyrics. But it was very aggressive, and just with acoustic guitar, the way I'd play it solo, it wouldn't be too pretty, it wouldn't have the same delicacy. And the intensity of the feeling about it makes you instinctively lean towards the more out performance. But the melody doesn't really insist upon that. It will stand up to it, but it also will stand up to a sadder, more contemplative treatment. And particularly in case of the instrumentation, the way I play it on the guitar is kind of like very harsh. This is a pretty harsh sounding acoustic guitar. It's an old instrument and has a clanky sort of sound. The way we had it arranged was with a very, very delicately played acoustic guitar, which Donald Loney played in bouzouki, and then pipes and fiddle came in as a harmony supporting the chorus, and I suddenly started to approach the song with much more sadness. So instead of trying to express my contempt and anger that was already written in the song by trying to match every word with a harsh delivery, I went the other way and had to try to just sing the song truthfully and not so maybe theatrically as that might have appeared. You know?
Less of a protest song.
Yeah, also there is something to consider. This is the action-reaction chain, is that people know that mannerism. They know it from Bob Dylan, they know it from Billy Bragg. They recognize it and immediately react, and they're in a frame of mind before they've got a single thing you have to say. So sometimes you have to be a little bit more ingenious. You know? First thing to say about what I self-consciously define as political songs is, if you say it's subversive, it isn't subversive, you know, and there's nothing subversive like the song. It straight out says what it has to say, but the way of saying it determines on how many people listen to the end.
Does it sadden you that you're reduced to making that kind of statement? Because you don't strike me as a particularly violent person.
It's just a question of what it draws out in you. I think everybody's capable of the most monstrous violence. She seems like a perfectly reasonable person. You know, in some manifestations, she certainly looks fairly benign. She's a middle-aged woman with hair like candy floss, but she does some of the most monstrous things, and shows not just two faces, but seems like any face that suits her at the time, and then tells you that it's a completely honest way to do it. And I just can't find any words that portray my contempt strong enough. And I'm not some little kid that they can say, there now, you're just these young little teenagers who are having a moment of protest. I'm a man, I'm 35 years old, and I'm fucking sick of it, you know, of what's going on in this country.
I saw a newspaper picture from the political campaign. A woman was kissing a child who was obviously in pain. She spills with compassion as that young child's face in her hands she grips. Can you imagine all that greed and avarice coming down on that child's lips? Well, I hope I don't die too soon. I pray the Lord my soul to save. Guess I'll be a good boy. I'm trying so hard to behave, because there's one thing I know: I'd like to live long enough to save it. It's worth it. Lucifer met him. And the future looked as bright and as clear as the black tarmac Adam. Well, I hope that she sleeps well at night, isn't haunted by every time. Yeah, 'cause when she held that lovely face in her hands, all she thought of was betrayal. And now the cynical ones say that it all ends the same in the water. Try telling that to the desperate father who just squeezed the life from his only son. And how it's only voices in your head, dreams you've never dreamt. Try telling him the subtle difference between justice and contempt. Try telling me she isn't angry with this pitiful discontent when they planted in your face as you line up the punishment, and then expect you to say thank you, straighten up, look proud and pleased, because you've only got the symptoms, but you haven't got the whole disease. Just like a schoolboy whose head's like a tin can, filled up with dreams, then poured down the drain. But try telling that to the boys on both sides, are being blown to bits, or beaten and maimed. Who takes all the glory, none of the shame. Well, I hope you live long now. I pray the Lord your soul to keep. I think I'll be going before we fold our arms and start to leave. I never thought for a moment that human life